welcome to the channel. I am the dude without fear. I appreciate you stopping by. I've been wanting to open a YouTube channel for a little bit, just as a means for me to have some conversation about comic books. I am an avid comic collector, a big comic book fan, have been for a long time, just something I got into as a kid and never grew out of it. And but everyone around me, most of them, grow out of it for the most part, and some of them were never into it to begin with. So, but I wanted to have some sort of outlet to be able to talk about comic books because I'm very passionate about them and I like them a lot, and they're a big part of my life. So, I wanted to start this channel. Through my intents on the channel are to talk about just what has made these characters so iconic and how they're able to stand the test of time like they have. Some of them have been around for like over 80 years, like Batman and Superman. And, there's a reason for that. There's a reason that these characters have been able to stick around for so long and have become such a staple in America's popular culture. And so I want to use this outlet to talk about that, to talk about comic books in general, why comic books are cool. I like comics as a medium, as an art form. It's just comics are interesting and they're very neat, right? Like there's not a lot of things out there these days like comic books. There's digital comics and there's video games and stuff like that, right? But actual comic books, there's nothing like it out there. It's awesome. It's why book readers prefer books to book collectors prefer books to Kindles and things like that. So don't get me wrong, Kindles have their place. That's awesome. You have that many books in one little device, right? But comic books, there's something about them. The feel of them, the smell of them, they're great. So the purpose of my channel is just for I'm going to just to give you an idea of content to expect. I'm going to be talking about, like I said, just comics in general, things relating to comic books, so certain movies and TV shows and things like that. Why comic books are important, why the characters are important. Uh, you know, talking about stories, my favorite stories regarding certain characters, my favorite characters, origin stories, things like that, and things regarding why comics should matter and why comics are a staple of growing up, and why there's comics are like any other art form. They want to express an idea to you. They want to communicate to you, right? And so it's important to know what your stories are telling you and what the point is that they're trying to get across. And, there's a lot of things that comic books teach us that we could use in our everyday life. And that's what comics are supposed to do. Comics are supposed to inspire you. They're supposed to motivate you to be better. And so we're going to talk about that. I'm going to be doing some reviews on the channel, but I'm going to be mostly probably reviewing like retro stuff, older comic books, in a segment that I will call Retro Review. And that's what today's episode is going to be about. We're going to be reviewing The Incredible Hulk, issue 204. I bought this comic probably about a year ago, maybe a little longer actually, and I just haven't gotten to read it yet. That's a problem that I have as a comic book collector. You are always collecting comics, you are always buying comics, but you don't always have time to read those comics. So that's one of the only good things about this COVID-19 pandemic is comic books have stopped being produced here for the last couple months. They're about to start back up here in the next couple weeks. And so that gives me and other collectors, I'm sure, a chance to try to get some of their backlog cleared out. My backlog's probably around about 300 to 400 comics right now. So I'm trying to get through some of them. So I read this the other night, this Incredible Hulk 204. This comic was very fun. Starting out, it looks kind of cheesy with this, what's his name? Cronus, Master of Time. But what caught my eye about it is the tagline underneath the title. It says, his awesome origin as you've never seen it before. Oh, that's cool. I like origin stories. So this comic was made in 1976 by the famous Len Wein, who created Wolverine and or co-created Wolverine, and is just a very famous, well-respected name in the comic book world, who is sadly no longer around. And Herb Trimpe was the artist on the book. And I'm not super familiar with him. I know he's old school. I know he's like he's very well known for his Hulk run in the 70s, which Hulk in the 70s is super awesome stuff. Like a lot of stuff in the 70s, I'm just not a fan of the 70s as an era. I think there's just a lot of crap, especially music-wise and movie-wise, until at least the late 70s. But in comics, there's some crap comics too, but Hulk comics are actually really good in the 70s. So this comic starts out, we've got Hulk at Gamma Base being fought by the military. They're trying to capture him. And so what really stood out to me about these first couple pages is talking about Herb Trimpe again, just his artwork. This particular panel right here, just how the Hulk's face looks here. He looks like a monster, right? And he is. He's a monster. The Hulk's a monster, but that's kind of just something we overlook, I think, from time to time, because it's the Hulk. He's a hero in his own way. But when Jack Kirby and Stan Lee created the Hulk, Jack Kirby drew the Hulk as a monster. He was a monster. It was kind of like a horror comic, and so Jack Kirby drew him in a terrifying manner, and the Hulk is terrifying. If you were to run up on the Hulk, you would probably crap your pants. But how Herb Trimpe drew him here, just this one panel alone, just really spoke to me. Like, I think it's his teeth, man. Like, his teeth are he just looks like a monster, it made me think, like even Bruce Banner's teeth change when he changes into the Hulk. And like when you think about Bruce Banner changing into the Hulk, it's gotta suck. Which it does suck. That's why he's trying to get rid of the Hulk his whole life. So Gamma Base captures the Hulk. They've previously, in the issue before, they captured his girlfriend Jarella, who's this blonde green chick from another dimension, I think. She's not another planet, another dimension, I'm pretty sure. But so he's captured. They put him to sleep, and then he wakes up and he's introduced to Professor Cronus, right? And so Professor Cronus essentially tells Robert Bruce Banner that they've found a way, they think, that they can cure him from being the Hulk. And that's all Bruce Banner has ever wanted. Like that's what he's trying to do, is get rid of the Hulk. He didn't willingly become the Hulk. He was forced into being the Hulk in a terrible accident, right? And it's wrecked his life ever since. And so for him to be able to be free of that absolutely he's going to try it. And so he gets in this machine that Professor Cronus has invented. It reminds me a lot of Quantum Leap, of the time machine and the time travel science that they use in that show, because it looks like it's his consciousness that goes back to his point of origin. It goes into his body so that he can uh, change the outcome of the events that led to him becoming the Incredible Hulk. And so he gets in the accelerator like Sam Beckett would, and he gets sent back in time. And when he wakes up at the test site for where the gamma bomb's about to go off. And so he goes through everything like it was. And when it's time to go out there, he goes out there. But instead of going to Rick Jones and dragging him with him and throwing him behind the protective barrier, he just yells at him and tells him that a bomb's about to go off and that he needs to take cover with him. And so Rick's running, and while he's running, Bruce is like, maybe this wasn't the right thing to do, but then he's like, no, he'll be fine. He's young, he's strong, he's done a lot of stuff in his life when he was friends with the Hulk. He can do this. And so Rick Jones is running and he leaps, but he leaps a little too late and he gets caught in the gamma blast. But unlike Bruce Banner, he actually winds up dying instead of becoming the Hulk, because if you read Hulk comics, you'll learn that it's not just the gamma radiation that made Bruce the Hulk, but it's some things lying dormant within him that just triggered this concoction that creates the Hulk. And so Rick dies, and Bruce is devastated, and he can't believe that this has happened. And then they pull him back. They yank him back from the accelerator, and he wakes up, and he knows that everything's gone bad, and he's freaking out. And they try to calm him down, but it worked. He's not the Hulk anymore, right? But then Professor Cronus comes busting through the wall, and he's looks kind of evil now. He looks like a villain, and so suddenly Bruce turns into the Hulk. I guess it didn't work, right? So they're fighting, and Kronos is showing the Hulk what he can do, and this dude is super powerful, right? He sends them back to prehistoric age, the time of the dinosaurs, and he can not only send them back through time, but he can like change other objects through time where they are. So like the Hulk picks up a rock to smash him, right? Because that's what Hulk does. And Cronus zaps this rock and reverts it back to the molten lava that it was before it formed into a rock. And it's crazy, right? And he's super mega powerful. And you're like, how is he going to defeat him? How is he going to defeat him? And then the Hulk just starts punching him in the face. He gets a hold of him and he just beats the tar out of him. And when he beats him up, he sees Rick Jones's face behind what was a mask. And he's like, what in the world? But then he wakes up from like a feverish dream. And you're like, oh man, so this whole thing was a dream, right? Nope. Not all of it, just the part where Hulk's fighting Cronus, and Cronus is a bad guy. He realizes that he's not the Hulk anymore, and that him going back in time to stop himself from being the Hulk is true, that was real, that happened. So he runs to the time accelerator, sets it up, sends himself back in time to the point of origin where the bomb goes off and he becomes the Hulk. And he chooses to relive those moments as they were so that Rick Jones would live, so that he would be saved and not die. He sacrificed himself. He sacrificed the one thing that he wants more than anything for his friend Rick, for someone else to live. And that's a great lesson, right? We have hopes and we have dreams, and a lot of us would do anything to see those hopes and dreams come to fruition. But if the cost of those hopes and dreams are hurtful to someone else, then maybe there's another way to go about achieving those hopes and dreams, right? And uh, so Bruce becomes the Hulk again, takes on that curse willingly, so that Rick may live. And, that's a very powerful statement. And that's something that we should be mindful of. We should put others' needs before ourselves. We should not be selfish. We should always look out for each other uh, before we look out for ourselves. And if I'm looking out for you, then you can be looking out for me, right? So I may not be covered by myself, but you're looking out for me. And so we put each other's needs before our own needs, and each other's wants before our own wants. And that's a very noble and very heroic thing to do. And that's why I like this comic so much. It was a very surprising issue. It started out as being something I didn't think was going to be very good. Turned out to be awesome. So I loved this book. I'm very glad that it is in my Hulk collection. And if you think it sounds cool and want to read it for yourself, hit up your local comic shop. And if you don't know where one's at, it's easy to find. You can just Google comics near me or comic stores near me, and go find you a local comic shop and pick this up and read it. And just enjoy it, because I did. I loved it. So let me know what you thought. Let me know what you thought of the story, of the concept. It's a very early concept of that, 1976. That's well before Quantum Leap. Maybe this is where Quantum Leap got the idea. Don't know. Have to ask Donald P. Belisario about that. But let me know what you thought. If you want to see more, subscribe. And until next time, I'll see you later.